Hi everybody, so today in today's tutorial we're going to be looking at some cascading style sheets, these .css files, which help us to format elements of multiple web pages, not just one web page. And we're also going to have a look at a new feature from HTML5, and it's called the WebKit feature. So we'll have an introduction to that today and see what you make of it. Okay, so what I'm going to do today, I'm going to go into my web design folder. As you can see, I've got loads of different things going on, but I'm going to make a new folder, and I think you should do too for today's session. Just start something new. I'm just going to call it CSS stuff. It's just an introduction, and I'm actually going to make another folder called Project 1, because I'm sure I'm going to have a few different projects as I work my way through understanding CSS style sheets. Okay, so what I need to do is go into Notepad++. Let's go to File and save a new file as my HTML file. Let's just go to Web Design, CSS stuff. There it is. And this is going to be Project 1 main. Now, of course, it's not. Let's not call it main. Let's call it home. Home.html. Home.html in my Project 1 folder. Save. I'm also going to go to File, New. I'm going to save this one as my CSS file. And I'm going to call it main. Not many. Main.css. So now, in my project folder, hopefully I have two files, home.html and main.css. They're both empty, 0 kilobytes. Okay, so let's go back to home, and I'm just very quickly going to build the skeleton of my web page. So please give me a moment while I do this. This is absolutely a test of my memory. You don't have to do it from memory. Do it however you want to do it, but I always recommend starting with nothing and seeing how much you really know. So I'm just going to give it a title, which is going to be CSS stuff. I'm also going to link to a form, which is a style sheet, and it has an href of, what did I call it? I called it main.css. Main.css. So there's my link tag. I'll close it there as well. So in my head I have a title, I have a link. I don't think I need anything else yet, but we'll see in a minute. Now in my body, I've got an idea of a design for my web page. What I'm going to have is a bunch of divs. The first one is going to be my big wrapper. And everything else is going to go inside the big wrapper. So there's my big wrapper. And now I'm just going to put my other divs in there. So my next div is going to have an ID equal to header, and that's going to be where my kind of navigation bar is, I guess. I could call it nav, couldn't I? Let's not call it header then. Let's call it nav for navigation, or my buttons to link to other web pages. Then below that, I'm going to have a kind of a section where, I don't know, all my kind of news goes. So I'm going to call it main news. That's the main news section. We'll have a look at this later. And I'm also going to have next to that a div where the ID is equal to, I'm going to call it side news. And I'm going to have a footer as well. Just kind of bring that up. So here I've got my big wrapper div. It opens there, it closes there, and inside that I have these 4 div areas: nav, main news, side news, and footer. Okay, so I'm just going to style some of these things in my CSS style sheet. Remember, in your CSS style sheet, you can style anything. You can style your H1 tags, you can style your H2 tags, you can style image tags, you can style unordered list tags, you can style the body of your web page. You can style anything. You can also style IDs. So I can style my nav ID. I can style my, what did I call it? Big wrapper. I can style main news and side news. And the other one that I had was footer. I can style the footer. All to be styled. So big wrapper is the most important one at the moment. I'm going to give it a width of 800 pixels. I'm going to give it a background color, just so I can see what it looks like. I'm not going to use this background color really, but just for now, while I'm designing, I want to see it. And so additionally, I want to kind of see it, how big this thing might look. So I'm going to give it a height as well. Let's say 800 pixels. So let's just save that. Go back to home, save that, and let's just see what that looks like in Chrome. And there we have it. There's my big wrapper. It's 800 pixels wide and it's 800 pixels high. Okay? Now, what I want to do is go back to Notepad, to my CSS styling sheet, go look at big wrapper and say, listen, I want you to be in the middle. So I'm going to make you margin auto. We'll save that. We'll go back and we'll just refresh my page, and there we go. So when I zoom in and out, my web page will always be in the center of the screen, and that's really the effect that I'm looking for. Okay, let's turn our attention to, in the body of my home page, the nav bar. Now the nav bar is just going to be a series of images, each of which of course will have a source. Source equals. So I'm just going to have a whole bunch of image tags, okay, and we'll look at these in a minute. Maybe 5, I don't know, we'll change that in a minute. And of course these image tags are going to be links, so definitely I'm going to be using the A tag. I'll open it there, and I'll close it there. And of course every A tag should have an href property, which is going to be equal to something. So this is how I'm going to build up my nav section. There'll be 5 images and each one will link to something. So let's look at creating a very quick image. I'm just going to go into Illustrator, going to go into print document. The width is going to be 100 pixels and the height is going to be 50 pixels. Okay. Now let's just go to Window and look at the, view, the actual size. And that's really the size that I'm playing with, okay? That's what's going to look like on my web page. So let's just design something quite basic. Kind of make it red. Can we make it a bit redder than that? Okay, and let's put some text underneath it. That text is going to say home. Just going to zoom in. Whoops. Control plus 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 plus. And so there's going to be home. Okay, that's fine. Let's use a capital H. Okay, so there's home. File, save as. I want to save it as a JPEG, JPEG, JPEG. No, there's no JPEG. In Illustrator, if you want to save a picture as a JPEG file, go to Save for Web. Save for Web and Devices. You get this option here. I'm going to take the setting to be JPEG and save. Just make sure that we're in our CSS stuff project 1, and this is my home JPEG. Home JPEG, save. Okay, so there's home. Just very quickly in Illustrator, going to go to, let's say I'm making a website about a business, and our business has products. So I'm going to have a products page. Just going to do that. File, save as. Oh no, not save as. File, save for web. Products. Save. This is going to be products and save. I'm just going to do a couple more. Staff, introduce the staff of my company. I don't want to change the horizontal. I don't want it to move up and down. I want it to stay where it was so that it's not going to look too weird. So I'm using the arrow keys on my keyboard just to move that from side to side. File, save for web and devices, save staff.jpg. Okay. Am I going to do one more? I will do some more later. Okay, well, we'll leave that for the moment. So if I look in my project folder, I now have 3 JPEG files. Home, products, and staff. So let's go back to Notepad++. Image, this image here has an src of home.jpg, and this one has staff, and let's do products first. And then this one has staff. And I haven't done these two yet. I'm just going to delete those for the moment. Let's save that and launch it in Chrome. And there I have my 3 buttons. Okay, home, products, and staff. Ooh, that one has using the A tag. You can see it's becoming a hand. Okay. Now then, I want my buttons to really be in the middle of the nav. So I'm going to go back to my CSS file. I'm going to go to nav, and I'm going to say text align center. Save that. Go back to home, HTML, and have a look at it in Chrome. And there we go. What I'm also going to do is go back to my CSS sheet and just get rid of this background color, because I don't really want it anymore. I might use it again later. But for the big wrapper, no background color. I'm going to save that, refresh my web page. That's currently what it's starting to look like. Okay? Now what I want to do is, when I put the mouse over this thing, I want it to do something to show me that it's a button. In fact, I'm going to try and change the opacity of my images when I hover the mouse over them. Okay? So the way to do this in your CSS style is, in your image, any image, we're going to add a hover. It's kind of like an action, I guess. What happens when we hover over the image? So you can see that turns orange. Image, hover. And there's a property called, I can't remember. Let's have a look. Let's go to a new tab in Google and type in HTML opacity. Let's have a look at that. There's something here. Image opacity, that's what I'm looking at. Are we going to go there? It's thinking about it. It's still thinking about it. Okay. We have an internet problem here. I'm just going to have a guess. I'm going to type in opacity 0.5. I think that kind of means 50% opacity. So let's save that, go back to home, and launch it in Chrome. And when I come over my images, you can see that the opacity of the image changes. Okay? So that's a nice effect. And that's it for today. Thank you.